Gaming is an entertainment medium that comes in many shapes and sizes. If you're the kind of person who loves to delve deep into a challenging long-term title, there's plenty to grab. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you just want to unwind with a casual game, that's so easy nowadays you can do it on your phone. But there's another specific set of gamers who opt for something different, something much darker. And that's scaring the absolute ever-loving shit out of themselves. But even within the hardcore circles of horror lovers, some games cross the boundary and become so damn scary that they're hard to get through. Of course, the list ahead does have spoilers, so beware. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 exact moments you tapped out of horror games. Number 10. The Mimic, the Mortuary Assistant. The 2022 indie hit, The Mortuary Assistant, is a game so terrifying you'll never want to step into a mortuary in your life. Not that probably many of you wanted to anyway. This game masterfully scares you by constantly placing you around dead bodies and forcing you to undergo tedious procedures, always wondering if something scary will pop out at you. Of course, this tension is backed up by the big scares that do happen, and by God, this one's a doozy. The Mimic, also known as the White Figure, is an entity that can be encountered in the game. Thanks to the game's procedural generation, you never know when you might stumble across it. The first time you spot this entity is enough to give you a heart attack. You'll simply be going about your business, working on embalming corpses, when you see something out of the corner of your eye. When you look towards it, you'll see this creature glaring at you, smiling, before quickly slinking off with uncanny, unnatural movements. If you're not used to the game yet and you see this, then no one would judge you for saying, yeah, you know what, this is not for me. Number 9. When you see it, don't move. Faith the Unholy Trinity. Many people look at Faith the Unholy Trinity and think, who would get scared by an 8-bit game? Then they give it a go and realize they're not immune to its spooky tricks. This unique horror trilogy is filled to the brim with clever scares. While there's still plenty to be freaked out by, this encounter with the Peekaboo Demon really sells what makes Faith so frightening. The moment comes in Chapter 2 when the protagonist John investigates the Candy Tunnel. Inside, you'll find a room with 4 pillars that can be pieced together to read, "When you see it, don't move." Ooh, now what could that mean? The ominous warning is soon put into practice, as in the next room, a terrifying demon approaches you and you must stay still to survive it. The horrible creature walks towards you looking like something from a Guillermo del Toro movie. It's utterly spine-chilling. You can also choose not to heed the warnings given to you and try to run away, but the results won't be pretty. Number 8. NÄCKEN spots you. Bramble the Mountain King. Bramble the Mountain King is one of those gems of a game that seems sweet and whimsical at first, but becomes so scary that it hits you like a speeding truck. Yeah, this title is beautiful, wholesome, and uplifting, but it's also a downright nightmare, and this moment exemplifies that. By the time you stumble across NÄCKEN's Pond, a location in the game, you'll already have had trouble dealing with monstrous trolls. But they pale in comparison to this violin-playing water spirit who lures you in with his music and then stalks you in the water. The specific moment in question is this antagonist's introduction. This occurs when you follow the sound of the strange violin and land on a lily pad. You spot the creature in the background and he notices you, putting his instrument down and sliding into the water, completely out of sight. Seeing this terrifying villain in the distance is genius, as he's far enough away that you don't get a good look at him, yet you can still tell how scary he is. You're instantly put on edge as he disappears because you know he's coming for you. Never before will you have wanted to get out of a picturesque pond so badly. Number 7. The Mannequin Dolls. Devotion. Most people can agree that certain things are just monstrously creepy, no matter what. Spiders? Check. Clowns? Check. Emotionless dolls? Oh boy, do we give them a check. When it comes to implementing creepy mannequin-style dolls into gameplay, you'd be hard-pressed to find anything better than this segment in Red Candle Games' Devotion. Devotion puts you in the shoes of a troubled man wandering around his family home, with the story being slowly unveiled through exploration and puzzle solving. In one section of the game, you're greeted by a room full of uncanny dolls, and you just know they're gonna move. As you look about the place, you'll slowly notice that these abominations have a habit of moving while you're not looking. This leads to constant terror as you have to walk around them, always fearing that they might just get you while you're not looking. It is a masterclass in tension. This kind of scare is hardly original, we're looking at you, Doctor Who, but it's done so well in this brilliant game. Number 6. Your first glimpse of the monster, Iron Lung. Are fish scary? Well, some people think so, looking at you, H.P. Lovecraft, but most gamers can agree that outside of Subnautica, you don't have to worry about the creatures you find in the water. However, what about fish that swim in oceans of blood? Alright, that'll do it. Iron Lung is a phenomenal yet simple horror game that combines claustrophobia and thalassophobia into one neat package. You play as a convict who explores an ocean of blood on a distant moon, all inside a rusty and decaying submarine. Your only ability to glimpse outside the submersible is through an archaic camera, and it's through that mechanism that you realize you're not alone in these waters. Or bloods. There comes a moment when you capture the image of an eye glaring right into the camera. Knowing something this big, threatening, and dangerous is out there is enough to make most people call it quits on the game. In a weird turn of events, the legendary YouTuber Markiplier is working on a live-action movie adaptation of the short game. So you'll soon get to see this freaky moment in another medium. Hooray! Number 5. Witnessing the groom's surgery. Outlast Whistleblower. The Outlast games are notorious at this point, and one of the biggest selling points of the franchise is its impressive roster of sinister villains. Many of the antagonists get your blood pumping, but none do it quite like the Groom from the Whistleblower DLC. Eddie Gluskin is a lovely guy looking to find a gorgeous bride and fall in love. Of course, he's also a batshit wild murderer who wants to cut off your family jewels and make you his bride. Love is in the air, everyone. Every encounter with this horrific beast is freaky enough, but one moment stands above the rest. In one segment, you'll find yourself inside a locker within Eddie's workshop, where you bear witness to a gruesome surgery. You're forced to watch a person having their manhood forcibly removed. That's already horrible enough, but it becomes worse once you realize that your character is headed towards the same fate. Ouch. This moment is nowhere near as romantic as the villain thinks it is, and many people will be so disturbed they put down the game for good. Number 4. The Arrival of Laura, the Evil Within. First impressions are vital, and that goes double for villains. If you really want players to be afraid of an antagonist, you've got to give them a reason to be. That's the MO for the Evil Within, as this character's debut will make you scream so hard you lose your voice. At the tail end of Chapter 4 in the first Evil Within game, you find yourself in a small morgue, with a corpse lying in a puddle of blood. While that's a horrid sight, you still feel safe in the room, as the only way in and out is through the door you entered. But no! Laura is about to make a gnarly entrance. This horrendous monster bursts out of the dead body and lets out a blood-curdling scream. She's a spider-like creature with a human face, and she's coming for you. You barely have time to figure out what's going on as you start sprinting away, only to find a locked door and this monster still coming straight for you. This might have been the arrival of the antagonist, but it was the departure of many players. Number 3. The Falling Woman. Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly. What game has the scariest ghosts? This is a question some might ask, and barring an entry coming later, plenty of gamers would answer with an emphatic Fatal Frame. This beloved series has plenty of entities that will give you nightmares, but the seminal Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly has arguably the freakiest of them all. You'll struggle to survive your encounter with the Falling Woman if you're not brave enough. The Falling Woman first appears when you're walking down a flight of stairs. A cutscene shows her glaring at you as she plummets headfirst down to the floor. The genius of this moment is that you're now fully aware of what awaits at the bottom of those steps, yet the only way to progress is to go say hello. That dread of heading down to her is bad enough, but it gets worse as you have to capture her with your camera. Her twisted form chases you across the room and leaves you in fits of fear. So that's a brilliant setup and payoff, but perhaps so brilliant it scares too many players away. Number 2. House Beneviento, Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil is the gaming gift that keeps on giving, if your idea of a gift is soiled trousers. There are countless terrifying moments within the games, but there's no debate that Resi 8 produced one of the absolute scariest with the dreaded House Beneviento. This house, which is the domain of the Second Lord Donna, starts out eerie and then turns into a pure nightmare. After some exploration, you'll have all the tools you've used to survive the game so far, i.e. your weapons, ammo, and equipment, stripped from you. So before anything starts, you already feel powerless. Things go from bad to worse after some time exploring the environment, as you hear a cry while walking down a hallway. Then you see the baby. Babies tend to be cute, but this horrible fetus monster is anything but. Its babbling noises, horrifying design, and looming presence as you escape from it are enough to make you drop the controller from fright. Running away from it is spine-chilling as you can always feel it right behind you. Your encounter with the baby ends with you desperately waiting for an elevator as the thing comes up behind you. It's a masterclass in horror gaming, and Capcom deserves heaps of praise for it. Number 1. Meeting Lisa in the hallway. PT. At this point, it's hardly a shock to hear someone call PT one of the scariest games ever made. It's the perfect horror gaming experience. And who do you have to thank for that? Besides Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro, of course, it's Lisa. This bone-chilling entity is a ghost murdered by her husband, so she skulks around the halls of the ever-repeating apartment where the game is set. You can spot Lisa multiple times in the game, including when she glares at you from the balcony or slams the bathroom door closed after you peer into it. But nothing compares to the first time you see her in the space you occupy, now knowing she's here for you. Walking around the corner to see this gaunt figure in the hallway fills players with a primal fear that's hard to combat. She's also accompanied by a creepy cry, which sounds like it's coming from an analog phone. For many, Lisa is too scary a hurdle to overcome. That's the end of our list, but let me know down in that comment section what is the exact moment you tapped out of a horror game. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you're liking, come say hi to me on my X account where I'm at Jess McDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great gaming lists.